Good morning, everyone. I'm Robert Stuart with Hancock Whitney Bank here in Baton Rouge. Hancock Whitney is a financial services company with a presence throughout the Gulf South region. We're committed to serving businesses large and small with five-star personal customer service. As a bank, we realize it's important to show support and commitment to the communities we serve. That's why we're honored to be a sponsor for the inaugural Supply Chain BR. We believe strongly that bringing local businesses together helps support growth opportunities for the Capital Region as a whole. It's my pleasure to introduce the moderator for Session 2, James Faucheux, Operations Manager at Wilson's Warehouse. James has been involved in the warehousing and logistics industry for more than 30 years and has been providing Wilson Warehouse customers with best-in-class service since 2002. He served as president for the Traffic and Transportation Club of Baton Rouge in 2016 and is currently a member of IWLA, the Southeastern Warehouse Association, and the Warehousing Education and Research Council. Welcome, James.
Good morning. I'm James Faucheux.
Faucheux?
Operations Manager, Wilson Warehouse, Sabine Transportation. So we're going to delve into discovering business opportunities hidden within your distribution process. A little bit about Wilson Warehouse. As Robert alluded to, we incorporated in 1961. We turned 60 this year. We're all proud of that. We cater to the petrochemical industry and other small accounts. We have right now, right at 3 million square feet of warehouse space we operate. That's a combination of customer-owned, company-owned, and company lease space. What we do, as our customers' inventory expands and contracts, we lease more buildings or vacate leases. I've been doing this for 19 years with Wilson Warehouse since 2002, and I like to call Greg Johnson at the port my friendly neighborhood landlord, because we've been in and out of there 4 times already. That goes to show you how much the space fluctuates in this market. Right now, we tapped out. In fact, we're about to move into another new warehouse at the beginning of December. And every other warehouse we're in now is practically full. Sabine Transportation is our sister company. Our niche is we service the plants. We shuttle their product that we store for them to our warehouses. So we go back and forth from the plants to the warehouses. We go around the clock in some of the plants. We lease our equipment, our tractors and trailers. Some of those guys are here. Penske's here. We lease trailers from them. Tractors from them. We lease trailers from HP. They're in the audience too, just giving them a little plug. Appreciate y'all sponsoring. So we lease them so that the equipment stays in good condition, never ages, and we have reliable equipment. We have PM schedules, DOT, annual DOT inspections, and that model works well. Because we can't have the equipment breaking down when the plants are producing. We shut the plant down, we back it up, then I get a call from Ray, and then he's on my behind, and we in trouble. So we've got a good relationship. What we do, we store raw materials from the plants, synthetic rubbers, resins, and plastics, aviation oils, refrigerants, and we ship that to their customers. And like Robert said, we have to be accurate, 0 defects. Because if we don't, we just miss one, we go hear about it. And they scream loud, and we're upset when we miss an order too. We're very proud of the work we do, the quality work we do, because we're a service organization. If we can't provide the high quality service, then they can go find somebody else to do the same thing we're doing. So it really affects us when we don't perform up to our standards. We're ISO certified. We've got lots of procedures for everything we do, and we take pride in the work that we do. Okay, you just heard about the warehousing market. We're going to talk about the transportation and trucking side of things now. I want to introduce my first panelist, Cassidy Smith. She's the traffic supervisor for Sabine Transportation. She earned her degree from Grambling University and Southern University. A little side note, she's the only person known to have marched in both the Grambling marching band and the Southern marching band. I don't know what color she wears to the Bayou Classic. Whoever wins, she says, that's me.
Nice hat to wear.
Cassidy now has 5 years of experience in logistical forecasting, analyzing, and management. Amongst her other duties, Cassidy is responsible for supervising the movement of goods between facilities, planned safety sessions to adhere to the company's zero defect policy. Our next panelist is Randy Gilyot. Randy's president of Triple G Express, an organization that has been serving superior intermodal trucking services from the Gulf Coast all the way up to the East Coast and everywhere else in between. Elected chairman of the American Trucking Association in 2019, Randy's 30-plus years in trucking has included all aspects of the business, ranging from sales and driving to dock work and safety. So, Randy, I want to know if you get in a pinch, you can get in that rig and run it right now?
I wasn't a very good truck driver.
I got you.
So I don't think you want me around.
You don't have that CDL anymore.
No, sir, I gave that up.
All right, thank you. Our next panelist is Cameron Zipp. He's an account manager at Gulf Coast Logistics. Cameron played football for University of Southern Mississippi. You never would have guessed that, right? Where he graduated with a bachelor's and master's degree. After working in the oil and gas industry for 6 years, he decided to pursue a career in logistics, moved back home, and has been with Gulf Coast Logistics ever since. So I want to start, we all know there's bottlenecks in the supply chain right now, big time. People are trying to figure out they can have Christmas gifts to get their kids for Christmas. And Randy and these guys are going to try to figure out how to make that happen. So a few stats, 80% of all cargo in the U.S. is moved by trucks. Right now, demand for Class A CDL drivers is at an all-time high. High school graduates aren't pursuing careers in trucking due to DOT mandates stating you must be 21 years of age to get a CDL or hazmat endorsement. There's a shortage of 60,000 drivers in the U.S. now. We're looking at 90% turnover rates as far as the eye can see on driver retainment. 40% of all imports go through the western ports. So the top 5 ports in the country, 3 of them on the West Coast. Number 1 is Los Angeles, 2 Long Beach, and number 5 is Seattle-Tacoma port. The other 2 in the top 5 on the East Coast is the New York, New Jersey port and Savannah. So with that, I'll start with Randy. Randy, what are some of the primary causes of the supply chain disruptions today, both locally and across the U.S., and specifically at the ports of Long Beach and Los Angeles in California?
Well, let's start off by a show of hands. Obviously, everyone in the room has heard the supply chain crunch, right? Everyone's heard of President Biden's comments with less than a week ago, we're going to go work 24/7, LA Long Beach. Everybody's heard that, right? I would assume just about everybody in the room has had shipments delayed and or not show up, right? Go to the grocery stores, you're not getting every product you want every time you go. So I think the importance of the supply chain now has become more and more apparent to everyone. In my speaking tour in the last year and a half, one of my favorite sayings is that, you know, people didn't realize how important the trucking industry was in particular until they didn't have their roll of toilet paper sitting on the grocery store when COVID started, right? All of a sudden now we've become more important to everyone's daily lives, even though they didn't understand that maybe before, but I think they do now. So a couple of facts that I'd like to throw out to you just in case you didn't hear. I've got information from trade magazines, from our own Transport Topics, from ATA. And we might have a difference of opinion as far as what the president has come out with in the successful nature of, you know, working 24/7. So I'll start off with our economist, Bob Costello. This just came out yesterday, literally yesterday. The September tonnage increased more from August to September than any other month recorded. We had a little lull. We were busy. Then we had a month or two of a little bit lull, and then it's extremely busy. I'm talking about the trucking industry, right? Nothing for me. The industry as a whole, whether you're dealing with drayage, you're dealing with flatbeds, vans, reefers in general. But the note to make a mark here is we didn't haul more tonnage because we've got more bodies and trucks on the road. We were more productive with fewer. We are all in the same boat here looking for more bodies, as Robert just described earlier in session 1. We all need more bodies, right? And then we're also being faced with our equipment. You know, you got Penske sitting in the room over there. How many chips have gone out on your trucks, right? And you can't get them in. And then the fixing comes from the government. And quite frankly, they come in with the DEF fuel sensor workaround. But in my particular case, I've got more NOx sensors broken than I do DEF sensors broken. So that recent workaround from the government really isn't impacting me in a significant way, personally. But the note here definitely is tonnage went up, but we've got less trucks on the road and less bodies on the road. So don't think there's a big panacea, a big, you know, fix that's out there right now. We do think it's going to take at least until the fourth quarter of 2022 for the bottlenecks to start clearing up. That is a guess at this point, quite frankly. If you go back to conversations from the economists 2 years ago, we thought the economy was kind of coming along, if you will, at a good clip. Felt good for everybody. Inflation was kind of, you know, not too high at all, and supply chain was kind of keeping up with the growth. And we thought, quite frankly, this year would have been more on the flat side. You know, obviously with COVID, we're wrong. You know, we not only had the pent-up demand in the households from COVID, but don't forget, you know, we spent well over $1 trillion, with more than $1 trillion that the U.S. government pumped into the economy. All that got spent on things that you want, right? If anybody is going out there and try and buy a car, a camper, a motorcycle, anything that you call a toy, you can't get it right now, right? You got to wait in line and take what you can get when you can get it. It might not be the exact same model that you want, or the same year, or the same type, or whatever the case may be. That's just a fact of life right now. A couple other things concerning the 24/7 workaround. You know, I've described it, I know a bunch of good friends, really good friends in California in the drayage business over there. And I won't get political on y'all right now, but the policies that come out of the California legislature and the governorship over there, I think are coming back to haunt them even more than what people realize, right? All these policies, the forward-leaning policies that may not be obtainable, or business unfriendly policies that come out of California day in and day out, labor policies, environmental policies, business tax policies, have run people out of the state of California. You know, I personally used to run hot shots whenever somebody needed a container to go catch a boat in California. I do now. I got a buddy of mine in Phoenix. I'll bring it to Phoenix, let him take it into LA, because I'm not going into California anymore. I just won't do it. And there's a lot of folks, similar ideas to me. I know a lot of folks moved out of California. They're now in Nevada. They're now in Idaho. They're now in Utah. And I think that's the unspoken things that's going on in California right now. But the bottom line is 24/7, unless you got bodies to supply the labor force, you take 100 employees and you go from 6 a.m. to 6 p.m. on a 12-hour day, and then you go to 24/7, but you still only have 100 employees to do it in, so you work 50 and 50. What do they get you? I don't think too much, right? The warehouses, they talk about the truckers who can't haul the products out of the ports in LA, Long Beach. The warehouses can't take it in. You can't get in fast enough and back out again. There's a lot of port complications over there in LA, Long Beach that people just aren't talking about or understand. The chassis, there are no chassis. I'm in the chassis business. I run 20,000 chassis across the country. I don't run anything on the West Coast because it's so screwed up over there, right? But the chassis situation there, people can't return the empties off the imports. The boats want them, but they got so many of them sitting at the port, you can't bring the next one in. So you're sitting on that asset, that chassis, and you can't move that empty until the ocean line tells you you could. That's a significant problem that really needs to be fixed, that no one's talking about. So that's some of the thoughts on the supply chain. I would say this, anybody in the audience who's got any questions or concerns, you know, you got a panel up here, you got a moderator, lay it on us if you want to talk more about the supply chain. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Randy. So Cameron, a lot of people here, you're a freight broker, may not know what that entails. Could you explain what is a freight broker?
Yeah, basically, in a nutshell, kind of like Robert, I'm a 3PL. We don't have any assets, but there are some 3PLs, freight brokers that do. We're an intermediary that links up the assets, the trucks, with the shippers to get your product to point A to point B. And the good thing about us is we're not entailed to a certain asset. We can do drayage, as Randy's mentioned, flatbed, over-dimension stuff, vans. We have a diverse group of assets that we can go out and look for your needs. I'm be short and sweet with that. We're here to diversify your needs and get your product moved in a timely manner, especially during a time like this when capacity is so tight. We can go out and look for different carriers for your needs to get it moved hopefully in a timely manner during these times. So.
All right, thank you, Cameron. So Cassidy, you know, we do the local shuttles, and, you know, and prospective customers, we can, you know, offer that service to them. If, you know, once they make their product, we shuttle it to our warehouses, and then we ship it for them. So what are some of the pros and cons of handling the transportation and traffic functions in-house versus outsourcing?
2 words: quality control. That is the difference between having your in-house drivers versus your out-house. So whenever you have your in-house drivers, you have the advantage of proper orientation and training, making sure they understand the importance of safety, they understand how much the equipment costs. Does a truck come with a safety camera? So the drivers are aware of the risk. They are aware of the importance of understanding your weight limits. They are aware of the communication that they should have with the warehouseman that's loading them. They get it. You know, they're well grounded in the system. But when you have an outsourced driver, it's not that they don't care, but they have their own truck, so it's their own fuel. So they have to put themselves first, right? They're numero uno. I'm here on a job to move this product from here to there. So it's not that they don't care as much, but they don't put the same quality into the work as your driver would. And it's kind of a give and take. So when the in-house driver is having to be responsible for training the outsourced driver, they're listening to that driver, but at the same time, it's like, okay, I'm just here to do a job. Versus the in-house driver, they know this is my job, this is what I use to live, this is my livelihood, so they're looking at it totally differently. So their safety is at 100%. They're mindful of the equipment, making sure we're not going out too wide and busting hubcaps and creating numerous unnecessary holes in the trailer. So all of that takes into account. So it's really just quality control, and that's the main difference.
Okay, thank you, Cassidy. So, Randy, if someone here wants to start exporting product, what resources are available to learn how to start an export business?
Well, James, I did a little bit of homework before I came here, and quite frankly, as I was listening to the first session, I changed my answer. I say call Bonnie. I think that's your answer right there. She's got a wealth of knowledge, and you know, after hearing her comments this morning there, call Bonnie. But in addition to that, you know, I just Googled on, you know, I've been around forever doing this stuff, but I just Googled before I came here and said, hey, you know, start an export business. And certainly the World Trade Center Association is a great resource to get to. There are government sites, export.gov, that gives you a wealth of information. I see Bonnie shaking her head yes. I say, I'm telling you, call Bonnie first, right? Because she's got the wealth of information. It's folks like her who have that knowledge, you know, the tariffs, the what to do to make sure that your product gets to where it's going overseas. It's making sure that you're paying the proper amount of taxes on it or whatever, or did you do this type of treatment to a particular product before you get over there? Because once you get overseas, shame on you, right? Then the control is completely out of your hands. So deal with somebody that knows what they're doing, AKA Avani of the world, and or look at some of these websites that are available, again, through the government, through different associations. You know, this association here that we're talking about today, you know, I think has a great wealth. The warehouse people, you know, such as the Wilson's Warehouse, has a lot of information concerning that topic there. So that's what I'd recommend.
Okay, thank you, Randy. Cassidy, so how, in this labor market we're in, how difficult has it been to hire and retain the number of drivers needed to adequately service the plants, our customers?
It's become quite difficult for two main reasons. Number one, depending on your carrier. Like for us, our insurance requires a driver to be at least 25 years old and have 3 years of experience. So a lot of drivers who are CDL Class A certified, they don't meet those requirements. And also because of such a high demand for drivers with CDLs, we can have an interview set up with them for Monday, for a Tuesday, but they have a job by Monday. And so these drivers don't show up. And then a lot of drivers have a horrible safety background, and that's something that we have zero tolerance for. So driver retention has become a little difficult when we have drivers who don't adhere to our zero defects policy. So it is a little difficult these days because the CDL is in such high demand.
Yes, challenging times.
Just as a tidbit,
Yeah.
you know, we've been putting out 60,000 truck drivers short. Just literally last week, matter of fact, I've got another article right here. They jumped up to 80,000 truck drivers short last week, right? It just to show you that the problem's growing and growing and growing about finding qualified drivers.
Yeah.
So 25% increase in the last week on the driver shortages.
I think the information's just catching up, right?
33%. Let me do my math here.
Maybe that's because of the 24/7 sitting over at LA Long Beach and President Biden. They need 20,000 more drivers over there, maybe.
In the holiday season.
So Cameron, when would I use a freight broker versus an asset-based carrier?
You know, on this one, of course, I'm biased as a freight broker. I'm going to say all the time. That's the easy one. No, but for an asset-based, a lot of times assets cannot handle the capacity, as Cassidy was just talking about, of what, you know, a warehouse or a shipper or receiver or importer, exporter can handle. So assets, I feel like if you have a common run and it's a lane that they're very similar with and you've built a relationship, it's something that you could have. Now, do you put all your eggs in one basket? I don't believe so. From my viewpoint, on terms of it can really hinder you on knowing where you are in the market. And as we all know now, the market's extremely high. But on a freight broker side, we're sitting there, we're making sure that these carriers are vetted correctly, that they have the proper insurance, that you're getting the best price on the market. We're going out there shopping, looking at, hey, this is where the market's at, this is where the price is this competitive? So being asset-based, it's more of a, how much time do you have as well to get and go do your due diligence if you want to use assets, or sit with a freight broker like myself and go, all right, they're doing the proper techniques to find out and make sure that the insurance, the vetting, everything, products being shipped correctly. And time is money. I mean, it really is. And my biggest thing right now is diversification. You need to have that in order to get things shipped in a timely manner as best as possible.
All right, thank you, Cameron. So Cassidy, coming back at you, we deployed the Smart Drive cameras. So how have the Smart Drive cameras enabled you to achieve your goals of maintaining high levels of safety performance from your drivers by reducing distracted and unsafe driving habits?
Okay, I look at our Smart Drive system as like a key performance indicator. It allows us to see how far we're going past our level of distortion. So we have a number system. We rank it 0 to 10, where the closer to 0 you are, the best performance that you're given, the closer to 10 you are, you're getting out of pocket of our safety performance. So me being the main safety analyst on that, I get to view the drivers daily on their specs in the system, whereas we're looking at seatbelt usage, who's speeding, who's using cell phones, which we absolutely frown against, and we have zero tolerance for that. And so what that helps us to do is help us to provide any type of coaching that's needed and possible progressive discipline. So the drivers understand at our company that your safety performance affects your bonus, and the drivers want their money. And when they know that if I'm not safe in the truck, it's going to affect my money, then I need to rethink. Then also, when they know that it's going to affect their progressive discipline, okay, you're going to have so many times make this mistake, and then you're possibly going to be on the bubble, and now you're looking for another job. So the Smart Drive system helps to keep our insurance down, because if we get to see that there's a particular driver that is unsafe, then we're having to second guess whether or not they need to actually drive for us. So the Smart Drive system, it definitely works. It's 100%. And what I like about it, it's not like a big brother. The specs are designed to where it's a trigger based off of behaviors emitted in the cab. So to me, it's been really, really wonderful. Like I said, it helps us to understand what our key performance indicators are. So it's amazing. It works really well.
Cassidy, have y'all had experience yet with the forward-facing aspect of the camera in accident investigation?
Yes, it has exonerated us in quite a few situations.
Yes.
Yeah, we took it a step further. We started with the forward-facing and driver-facing cameras. Then we added side cameras on the two side view mirrors, because that's where all the action is. And that's where, you get set up for, frivolous lawsuits.
Yeah.
Because
So-
we're taking these wide right turns on the surface streets in Baton Rouge, and people will see that and purposely run up or try to position themselves to get hit.
Yeah.
Even if it's a little ding. One of them, the person never got hit at all. We did the measurements where the scratches were on the car and the height of the bottom of the trailer, and it didn't match. Yet they sued anyway. It's very litigious. You see all the signs all over I-110. The old boy across the street, Garden, G. Garden, Garden McKern, whatever. He's not a friend of truck drivers.
No, not at all. And I would also make comment to everyone who has cameras in your trucks. Those who don't, you gotta get them, right? It's just, you gotta have them. And make sure, as you go through the procurement process, that your camera is working 24/7 on it. There are some camera systems that are triggered by an event. And as you hear more and more accidents, as James just described, where it's just barely a side swipe, right? It doesn't trigger the event on the camera, therefore you don't get the footage on it. You need a camera that records as that truck is running 24/7.
Randy, let me correct you on that.
All right?
So a G-force shock triggers an event, okay? But we have what's called extended recording.
That's what I'm talking about.
So
You gotta have it on your camera.
If it's not triggered and you have an accident because the G-force wasn't strong enough, if you know the range of time that it happened, you can request that video.
Right.
But
there are some.
But they don't view it live, okay? Once an event is triggered, the Smart Drive people have safety experts who review the videos, and they will critique what the driver's doing during that event. That's how we catch them talking on the phone, texting, drinking, fidgeting around, no seatbelts.
Yeah.
Because that event is the only mechanism they have to review the driver's behavior. Nobody's watching it live as the cameras are on. So there's a lot of time going by that drivers may be not following safety protocol that we don't know about unless there's an event that triggers that
Right.
video.
But if
to
an
be reviewed.
accident happens and it's not a significant enough accident, it's not a triggered event. That's why I'm telling you.
That's correct.
That-
But
that's
we
why
still
I'm
have the
saying-
ability to retrieve the video,
And
yes.
that's why I'm telling you, and some models don't. That's why I'm saying,
Yeah.
emphasize and be good in your procurement to make sure that it's going to capture that event no matter what, right? Whether it's a triggered one or not.
Yeah, and
That's
then
all I was trying to clarify.
also training the drivers to know how to, whenever they see suspicious behavior on the road with them, to go straight to the button to press it so they can exonerate themselves, because you see a lot of drivers running in front of a truck and slamming on brakes. So it does work very well.
Thank you. So Randy, should I sell freight, should I sell with freight included or not? if I'm selling trucking services?
I go back, call Bonnie. You know, it depends on your circumstances. You know, the Exxons of the world, it's in the room right now. They certainly have the expertise to sell in the fashion that they see fit for their company. Smaller are new to the industry, selling exports. You know, from my standpoint, I would not. That's just my personal belief. That I would leave it up to my receiving company to bear that expense and to bear the system, if you will, if I don't have experience in the market. Now, certainly if I do, I want to dominate how I ship, right? So the Exxons of the world, they come in and rarely do they allow a customer to move the freight on their own behalf. It's Exxon who moves that because they want to control how they ship it, where they ship it from, when they ship it, and offer it to a customer overseas as a price delivered. So I think it really depends on who you are and where you are in the marketplace on whether you include freight or not. But I would certainly work with your customized broker, freight forwarder, or your advisor to accomplish that goal.
Okay, thank you, Randy. So Cameron, can you explain what is the difference between a freight forwarder and a freight broker?
Freight forwarder is basically the one who clears the freight from import to export, or for imports. Customs brokers would be imports, freight forwarders would be exports. Sorry about that. I get that mixed up all the time. And so freight brokers are the ones who provide the assets once it does get into the States, either domestic or either over the road or drayage on that side. We personally work with a lot of freight forwarders and customs brokers through times because of insurance issues, legality, bonds, license. Some have them, some don't, but it takes time. And as Bonnie knows, we keep going back to you. It takes a lot of time to clear freight, and there's a lot of I's dotted, T's crossed. And so with that being said, having to go out there and shop, which has the most efficient, cost-savvy carriers in a certain area, that's what we're here for. And logistics, and you're going to hear me say it numerous times, time is money. And as we see the cost of things are going up, if we can save any savings, it's going to help everybody in the long run.
Thank you, Cameron. Cassidy, another one, even though we're a short haul carrier, we aren't required to have ELDs, electronic data logs. But what advantages have you found with, since we started installing them, using them versus the paper version of the pre-trip and post-trip inspection?
More proficiency. With our ELDs, they're connected to like these iPads, so they can actually disconnect it from the base and take a picture of any maintenance issues, flat tires. Also, it triggers whether or not a driver has started moving forward with doing an actual pre-trip and a post-trip, and that sends an information back to myself and the maintenance supervisor. So the proficiency is there. Also, again, it goes back to the safety bonuses. It keeps up with the actual mileage. It keeps up whether or not a person is taking a 30-minute break. So it keeps us within DOT regulations and FMCSA policies. So paper is okay, but you can kind of manipulate paper a little bit more than you can with the electronic logs.
Thank you, appreciate that. I think, are we ready to open it up for questions and answers? I think Steve blew over that one in the last session, but we want to give the audience a chance to ask some questions.
This question is, I guess, for the panel. First, Randy, do you have 100 empty containers I can have right now? What's the container situation?
Container situation in New Orleans in particular, which we're most familiar with here, is not very good. We're losing services. They're skipping the port. I define it as, I mean, the ocean lines are making more money than they ever have in the history of their companies, and they are absolutely driving themselves towards the most profitable markets. So if you happen not to be in a market where they feel they're not most profitable, you're suffering, right? I'll also say this, since I'm in the chassis business, chassis are gold right now, right? I have been coaching my customer base for a long time to say, you're better off procuring your own chassis through your motor carrier or directly with a third-party chassis provider and get your own chassis that you control, as opposed to allowing yourself to be susceptible from the chassis that are being provided as a third-party service, but through the ocean lines. There's a lot of bad information coming out of that. I know the politics behind it, and the availability of chassis. If you're going to the pool like everybody else is, you're just waiting in line.
I have another point to make. Greg Johnson at the port, they have 1,400 containers right now, I believe he said, from CMA, steamship line. They truck them down, I guess, from North Carolina or where? Memphis, okay. And what, 200 or 300 chassis? So one of our customers started utilizing that service. It's a container on barge. They have the chassis and the containers. They get them loaded at the warehouse. It's right there in Port Allen. They bring them back to Port Allen, take them off the chassis, load them on barges, ship them to New Orleans, put in New Orleans on barges. So that'll alleviate some of the concerns about containers availability. I don't know how many people are aware of that service, but it needs to be public. Greg says it every time I see him. He tells me what the latest stats are.
Good.
Appreciate that.
So I have a follow-up question for Cassidy. We talked about the smart drive and coaching and training with the electronic log device, but we have the advantage often when we're doing the shuttles from a plant or a customer facility to our place of having a fairly common route. Describe how you go over those routes. Maybe it's not the shortest route that's the safest route. Can you describe how you set the routes for the drivers to take?
Absolutely. A lot of times we do have common routes going within a 10 square mile radius, but sometimes they have to be heavily vetted due to acts of God that's happened or any type of unforeseen heavy forecasting that's coming across the area. Even things just daily traffic issues that starts to kind of give us bottlenecking in our daily operations. But just for an example, we lease our trailers, and we started to find that there was a particular dent in the same part of all the trailers, and we're trying to figure out what was going on. So after talking to the drivers and actually vetting the route, we saw that due to heavy rain, there was this one particular area on Evangeline where the limbs were lying extremely low, and it's hitting the trailer every time, and it's creating perforation holes in the top, and so that it could possibly affect our product, and that is a super no-no. So now we have to completely change that route to a different way to get that product to the warehouse where it needs to go to stop the damage on the trailers. Those type of things, just simple things like that, they happen all the time, every day. So it just takes open and proper communication between the drivers, to me, the supervisor, as well as to my assistant ops manager, to the operations manager. And once everybody's on the same page, say, okay, we need to switch this up. And then it's proper vetting of me actually getting out there in the field and driving the routes, and then looking at the traffic forecasting. Also looking at, the square footage. Can this 53-foot trailer, this 48-foot trailer fit on this road? Where is it going? How is it coming back? How wide are the turns? So everything has to be properly vetted.
Thank you, Cass.
Hi, I'm Matt. I'm with Crown, a forklift company, and we have autonomy coming into my industry with shortages and licensing issues and accidents, right? Mm-hmm. So where is the trucking industry with that? How far out do you see it? What are your thoughts?
Well, I'll say this, that you look a little bit younger than I. I have made a public statement across the country that I won't see it in a robust way in my career. I've probably got another 5 to 7 years in my career. Autonomy is coming. I think it's going to be on a limited basis on specific routes. There's a lot of unspoken problems with autonomy. Some of the technology still isn't working right now. You don't hear that very much in the media, but it's truthful. The technology is still evolving to make sure that it works right. And there's also the public. You know, how many people in this room, raise your hand if you've ever gotten on a plane with no pilot? Would you ever get on a plane with no pilot? Anybody? I don't see a hand. Wait a minute, did I miss anybody? Right? Those planes are being driven right now autonomously, right? But you want to see a body or two in that front,
Right.
no matter what. The mindset. I mean, can you imagine a driverless truck behind you on the interstate, stopping on the traffic on I-12, coming in from Covington this morning, stopping and going bumper to bumper? Can you imagine yourself in front of a driverless truck? I think it'll eventually happen, but I think that it is not 1 or 2 years away. I think it's probably a decade away.
Aren't some of the ports using autonomous
and
to
that's
move
what
the
I was
containers
getting-
around?
Yeah, there is definitely some area sooner than later, right? There are some port facilities. You know, when you're taking containers off of a boat, you take them off with the crane, but yet you take it with a truck right now and you move it from that crane area to a storage area, whether it's an empty or a load or whatever the case may be. That is certain routes, certain ways, it's closed loop, right? So there's going to be some applications in there that really make a lot of sense for autonomous, but it's not going to be in the robust. You're not going to see any truck drivers in the next 10 years. I just don't see that happening. But you're going to hear case by case more and more of that type of situation coming around.
I wanted to say something real quick. So I believe I believe in that as well, but there'll be some situations where it's just not gonna be possible. We service a plan called Vistalon, and VFU is extremely tight, so much so that we are not very sure about how many physical human drivers we want to go in those plans. And it's no way possible because you have to take into consideration the constant construction, the constant rollout dumpsters that have to be moved constantly, and how when one section is closed, one section is open. So if it happens, it won't be the answer to everything, no.
And Cassidy, that's a perfect example. You know, you're switching out trailer units multiple times a day with a tractor, right? So are you going to have an efficient autonomous camera in every trailer that's going to match up to every tractor? Because
Absolutely
when you're
not.
backing up, you're going to have that connection there.
Right.
There are things out there, you just described, that the technology is not there yet. I'm sure it'll come, right? But I don't think it's going to be as quick as what the media tries to let it on to be in a truck.
I got a question. What about tractors, electric vehicles? Where's that going?
You want me to answer that one?
Go ahead, you're the expert.
I was at a Washington State Trucking Association 2 weeks ago, and one of the other guest speakers was the national spokesperson for PACCAR, Peterbilt in Kenworth. Very articulate. There are a lot of challenges with electrification. Again, I think it will be progressed, but I don't think you're going to be able to see it in a robust way in the next year or two. You know, I've even had, you see a lot of Werner equipment, good friends of mine, Werner Truckload, one of the largest truckload carriers in the country. They literally had a location in Missouri where they were going to go in and make the entire location electrified. This was a local kind of, almost like the pellets. I don't know what the product it was, but like the pellets coming from a relatively short area. In that small town, they would have taken up over 100% of the available electricity just to electrify like 30 trucks there. The rest of the town would not have any electricity whatsoever, right? So obviously they had to abandon the project and look elsewhere to fossil fuels or something else. The other conversation is, I've heard it explained as high as 160, and I've heard other explanations as low as like 80. One truck, Class 8 truck, compared to a household. So is it 160 or is it 80? I don't know. Doesn't make me a bit of difference. 80 is plenty enough to use as an example. Can you think the existing electrical grid can handle stealing 80 homeowners' electricity and put it into one truck?
No.
One truck. The price tag to electrify a truck, to build the infrastructure to go in, is over $300,000 for one space. So forget about the over $250,000 price tag to electrify, to buy an electrified truck, which is out there, which I'm not gonna say totally double what it is for a conventional diesel truck, but it's a huge percentage more expensive. But then you gotta build the infrastructure to power it up, right? And you could slow trickle it at 8 hours, and then you could fast trickle it down to 4 hours. But when you fast trickle it, then you gotta pay more for the infrastructure for the pump station, and you one at a time, right? I mean, guys like me right now, you got a fleet of trucks that come in, and I've got a mechanic or a shop hand that fuel up my trucks for me. Well, he can fuel up in a matter of a couple of hours if they show up, right? Get 20 trucks in, they fuel them up, he's done in an hour, hour and a half. But then if it takes you 4 hours in one station, costing you over $300,000, 4 trucks on 4 hours, that's the quickest you're doing right now, right? So then take into consideration your next truck. If I'm dealing with the same 20 truck fleet, I gotta have 4 hours in between each station? Or am I gonna go out and go get 10 stations to fuel 20 trucks of electricity at $350,000, $340,000 each station? And that's if I can steal the electricity away from the existing grid where I'm at, which is a huge if.
Work 24/7.
Right, how am I gonna work 24/7, right, with electrified trucks? I gotta stop, right, and the amount, you know, how far you can go with it, all depends on the loads that you're handling, how much weight, how much heat, how much cold, right? All that affects electrification of the truck. And the other thing that I learned, and it was just amazing to me, to electrocute yourself or whatever is, and forgive me if I'm using the wrong numbers, but 60,000 something. Well, when you electrify a truck to the batteries, it's like 6 times that amount. So now you've got that kind of voltage going in from where you plug it in at, that's like 6 times the amount that you could kill yourself on another something. So all the wiring phrase and all of that kind of stuff, you know, do you have a chafe wire right now? Well, that's not safe, but a chafe wire on an electric truck, that'll kill you. Penske, how many trucks do you have that are electric trucks in your fleet? None in Louisiana. So you're running how many across the country?
I don't have an exact number. The majority of rental trucks that we have that are electric and customers use vehicles are now.
Yeah, exactly. And how many ships we got off the coast in California right now? I'm sorry.
Don't discount fossil fuels, guys. I think we're good.